I collapsed at work. The paramedics were called, and they tried to reach my daughter. She never showed up, never even sent a message. Instead, her husband posted a cheerful family photo on social media with me tagged. "Perfect day without the drama queen," the caption read. 3 days later, still weak and lying in the hospital, I noticed 92 missed calls from her, all urgent and panicked. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button. If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe. We post one every day. I lay in the hospital bed, staring at my phone, barely believing the audacity of my own family. It began on a Tuesday morning at Oak Ridge Insurance, where I'd worked as a claims adjuster for over a decade. Nothing special about the day, just the usual flood of paperwork and coffee that tasted like burnt metal. While reviewing a claim, the pain hit me, sharp, crushing, radiating down my left arm, exactly like the pamphlet said it would. My coworker Lisa rushed over. "Are you okay? Call an ambulance." I barely managed a nod before everything went black. When I came to, I was in the cardiac unit at St. Jude's Hospital, for in my arm, a serious-looking cardiologist explaining that I'd had a mild heart attack. "We've contacted your emergency contact," he said gently. "Your daughter Emily should be here soon." Should be, I thought bitterly, as the hours dragged on. Day 1 passed without a word. Day 2, flowers arrived from my neighbors and a get-well card from colleagues. Still no Emily. Day 3, I opened my phone. There it was, a notification from Instagram. Emily and her husband James, twins in tow, smiling at some upscale brunch. The caption, "Perfect day without the drama queen. Blessed family time." I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Drama queen. While I fought for my life, that's what I was to them. My phone then exploded with calls, 92 missed, frantic texts. "Mom, we need you now. Answer the phone. This is serious." I almost fell into the old habit of dropping everything for them, but then I remembered the smug smile in that photo. Instead of responding, I called my lawyer. "Are you sure about this, Margaret?" Attorney Paul Townsend asked as he reviewed my documents. "I've never been more sure," I replied. The previous week had been an eye-opener. Emily had stopped by the day after my discharge, not to check on me, but to demand I return her calls immediately. When I calmly asked why she hadn't visited me in the hospital, she rolled her eyes. "Mom, we're busy with the kids. Besides, James said you were probably faking it for attention. Faking a heart attack for attention." At 63, that 5-minute conversation made me realize it was time for a drastic change. A week later, I sat in Paul's office. "So you want to revoke the financial power of attorney you gave Emily last year, change your will completely, and formalize the loans you've given over the years?" "Yes," I said. "Every penny, documented. Interest at market rate. I'm done being taken for granted." Paul looked at me, concerned but impressed. "The total? $52,000 over 8 years for various loans and favors that had never been repaid." When James and Emily, received the legal paperwork, the looks on their faces were priceless. James scanned the documents, growing redder with each page. "What is this?" he demanded. "Formal loan agreement, repayment schedule, interest applied," Paul explained calmly. Emily's perfectly made-up face paled. "You can't be serious," she whispered. "What exactly have you done for me?" I asked, voice steady. She gestured vaguely. "We include you in family events, we let the kids spend time with you, as if my presence in my own daughter's life were charity." "You're overreacting," James said, voice whining. I read aloud the Instagram post. "Perfect day without the drama queen. Which part was funny? My hospitalization or your complete lack of concern?" They argued, tried to guilt me, but I stayed firm. The twins ran up to me, hugging me tightly. My heart clenched, but I remembered lying alone in the hospital bed, wondering if I would survive while they celebrated without a thought. Emily and James, the kids are always welcome, I said. But the Bank of Margaret is officially closed. As I drove away, I realized something worse. They'd actually been planning to control my life completely. Texts from an assisted living facility revealed that Emily had been secretly inquiring about my competency, plotting to push me out of my own independence. I hired a private investigator, former Detective Anna Carter, who uncovered more. Over the past year, someone had been checking my cognitive abilities, attempting to find signs of confusion that didn't exist. The plan had been to petition the court for guardianship, giving them full control of my finances, my living arrangements, and even my medical decisions. I leaned back, hands trembling slightly, processing everything. Lying in that hospital bed alone had been a wake-up call. From now on, I would protect my independence, my money, and my dignity. No one would take them from me, not even family. Once someone gains guardianship, they can decide where you live, Anna said, her expression grim. The person who's supposed to protect you can legally choose your housing. My hands started shaking. How close were they to actually doing this? That's what we need to find out, Anna said. I'll need permission to access their communications with assisted living facilities, any legal consultations, and financial records related to you. I signed the authorization forms immediately. Do whatever you need to do. Over the next 2 weeks, Anna uncovered a scheme far more calculated and heartless than I could have imagined. On a Thursday evening, she called me with the preliminary report. "Margaret, sit down for this one," she said. I gripped my chair anyway, bracing myself. Emily and James met with an elder law attorney 6 months ago about guardianship. They also consulted a financial planner on how to handle a potential inheritance. Worst of all, they've been researching quiet title procedures. I felt the room spin. What does that mean? I whispered. It's a legal process to transfer property ownership when the current owner is deemed unable to manage their affairs. They were planning to move you into assisted living, claim you were incompetent, and eventually take control of your assets. I thought about all the little comments Cheryl had made over the past year, asking if I'd forgotten things, implying I was overwhelmed by simple decisions. Reconnaissance. There's more, Anna continued. The emergency loans you gave them. I traced them. The $20,000 for a roof repair went to a family vacation in Hawaii, $15,000 supposedly for Emma's medical expenses paid for James's elective surgery. Each revelation hit like a punch to the chest. They had been stealing from me while plotting to seize everything I owned. What are my options? I asked. You caught this before any legal filings, Anna said. But cases like this are tricky, especially when the loans weren't formally documented. I thought about the repayment agreements Paul had prepared. I already have documentation, I said. That helps, but Margaret, what outcome are you hoping for? Justice, recovery, or something else? I looked at my garden, my house, the grandchildren who'd been used as pawns. I want them to understand exactly what they almost lost, I said. And I want to make sure they can never do this again. 3 weeks later, I met Catherine Wells, a financial advisor Emily and James had never heard of. The documents spread across her desk were detailed and strategic. Margaret, this is one of the most comprehensive asset protection plans I've ever implemented in such a short time, Catherine said. I smiled, feeling a calm I hadn't felt in months. Over the past month, I had quietly transferred my house into a revocable trust, moved my savings into accounts inaccessible to Emily and James, and set up legal protections that would make any guardianship attempt nearly impossible. But the best part came next. The charity foundation is fully established, I said, reviewing the paperwork. The Margaret Hartwell Foundation for Senior Financial Protection was now a registered 501(c)(3). I donated 60% of my liquid assets, enough to help other seniors and still enjoy a comfortable life, while ensuring that my money could never be seized by unscrupulous family members. Catherine smiled. Your first speaking engagement is next week. The local news will cover it, too. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily, Mom, can we talk? Maybe start fresh. Too late, I said. Anna had delivered copies of all legal documents to my home yesterday. Every manipulation, every lie, every step of their scheme was documented. When they arrived at my door that evening, both looking desperate, I invited them in with curiosity rather than anger. Which part is the misunderstanding? I asked, calm. The part where you planned to declare me incompetent or the part where you intended to take my house? Cheryl burst into tears. We thought you'd be happier in a community with your peers, with care available if you needed it. James protested. We were trying to protect you. I played a recording Anna had made. James's voice was clear, the old woman's loaded. Might as well make sure it goes to people who can actually use it. Cheryl's face turned pale. We made mistakes, but we're family. Families forgive. I looked at her. Family members don't plot to steal each other's homes. They don't celebrate your mother being hospitalized. They don't use children as emotional leverage. James, started yelling about the kids. You're cutting us off completely. What about Emma and Jake? The children are always welcome, I said. You two are not. The loans remain in effect. Default, and I'll take you to court. As they left, I felt a profound sense of peace. My phone rang. Emma, my sweet granddaughter, whispered, Grandma, I miss you. You can visit anytime, sweetheart, I said. But it will be at my house, where people love both of us. The next week, the community center was packed for my first speaking engagement. Nearly 200 people listened as I shared my story, the red flags of elder financial abuse, and the steps seniors could take to protect themselves. Hands raised, stories shared, warnings exchanged, I realized I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was helping an entire community avoid the trap I had almost fallen into. And in that moment, the quiet of my living room no longer felt lonely, it felt safe, peaceful, and wholly mine. I also heard stories of courage, people who recognized the warning signs, took action, and kept honest communication with their families before manipulation could take root. That evening, my first local news interview aired. I'd been nervous, worried about embarrassing Emily or affecting the twins, but watching myself on screen, I felt only satisfaction. I had carefully avoided names, focusing instead on systemic issues that threatened seniors everywhere. Before the segment ended, my phone began ringing. Mrs. Hartwell. This is Margaret Thompson from Channel 7 in Denver. We'd love to interview you about elder financial abuse. Are you available this week? 3 more stations called that night. 2 radio programs, a podcast on family relationships. My story had struck a chord far beyond my town. But the call that mattered most came at 11 p.m. Emma's small voice whispered, Grandma Margaret, I saw you on TV. Daddy's really mad, but I thought you looked pretty. I swallowed hard. Thank you, sweetheart. How are you holding up? Mommy and Daddy fight a lot about money stuff. Daddy said you stole his inheritance, but Mommy said you never promised him anything. I smiled softly. I don't fully understand grown-up stuff either, Emma. But your daddy and I are just having disagreements. It doesn't change how much I love you and Jake. Can we still see each other? Anytime you want, Grandma, she said. But it might be a little while. I hung up, sitting quietly with my tea, reflecting. 6 months ago, I was a lonely widow, terrified of being abandoned. Now I was a foundation director, a public speaker, and a reluctant expert in elder financial protection. Michael and Cheryl's betrayal had backfired spectacularly. Instead of dependence, it forced me to build independence. Instead of silence, it gave me a platform and a voice. That night, a text arrived from an unknown number. "Mrs. Hartwell, I heard your interview on the radio. You gave me the courage to confront my son about a $30,000 loan he lied about. Thank you. Margaret K." The text was worth more than anything Michael could ever repay. I was building something bigger than family drama, resources to help people avoid the traps I'd almost fallen into. 3 more speaking engagements were scheduled, and a publisher wanted to turn my story into a book. Michael once called me a drama queen. He was right. I had been dramatic enough to survive his attempted financial exploitation and turn it into something that could protect thousands. Then came a registered letter, delivered with Michael's signature required. I watched from my window as he read it. "Morrison and Associates, attorneys at law." It had been 2 months since my first interview, and the response had been overwhelming. The foundation now received calls from seniors across 3 states, and I'd been invited to speak at conferences in Chicago and Atlanta. Michael's voice came over the phone, tight and furious. "Mom, what is this?" "I assume you mean the competency evaluation report," I said calmly. Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the most respected geriatric psychiatrists in the state, conducted it. Her assessment confirms my mental capacity unequivocally. There was a pause. "You hired someone to test your own mind?" "Yes, Michael. To ensure that no one could ever claim I was incompetent." I continued. "Perfect cognitive scores. Excellent emotional regulation. Superior financial reasoning. No evidence of diminished capacity or decision-making." Dr. Chen was impressed with my strategic planning skills. "Why are you doing this to us?" His voice trembled. "I'm protecting myself from people who try to steal my home and independence. That it happens to involve you and Cheryl is unfortunate, but it doesn't change your attempts." A long pause, then Cheryl's voice in the background. "Mom, this has gone too far. We're thinking about moving out of state with the kids to start fresh." "Certainly your choice," I said. "Though I'm curious how you'll manage while still repaying $47,000 in documented loans." They weren't loans. They were gifts. Family helping family. "Then you won't mind the repayment schedule, $1,300 a month for 36 months, starting next week." "We can't afford that." "I know. Sandra's investigation revealed the truth. You've been living beyond your means, subsidized by my money for years. Adjust your lifestyle accordingly. Downsize, sell what you can, live within your means. That's your responsibility, not mine. You're destroying the family over money." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm refusing to finance my own victimization. The children are always welcome, but your abusive behavior does not grant you entitlement." I hung up and felt a calm clarity I'd never known. A year ago, I would have panicked at the threat of losing access to Emma and Jake. Now, I felt empowered. My foundation gave me purpose. My speaking engagements connected me with people who valued my insight. My life no longer depended on anyone's approval. Texts arrived from Catherine Wells. "Trust modifications complete. Assets now protected against even prolonged legal challenges." From Anna Carter. "Background check on the assisted living facility shows prior investigations into improper practices. You were right to avoid them." From another woman I didn't know. "Mrs. Hartwell, your interview inspired me to stop my daughter from taking guardianship over me. Thank you for protecting my independence." Patricia Johnson. I printed Patricia's note, adding it to a growing folder, nearly 50 stories of seniors who had acted before it was too late. Outside, Michael and Cheryl were loading suitcases, probably leaving temporarily to regroup. Part of me wanted to run and forgive, but I knew giving in would teach them that manipulation worked. I wasn't that woman anymore. I was someone who hired private investigators, built legal fortresses, and turned personal betrayal into public education. Michael had called me a drama queen, and now I was proud of it. At 6 a.m., the phone rang again. Detective Rebecca Santos from the State Attorney General's office was on the line. She explained they were investigating a network targeting seniors through assisted living and guardianship schemes. My son and daughter-in-law had been connected to David Kellerman, a professional who helps families manufacture incompetency cases and fast-track guardianship. Photos and documents confirmed it. Michael and Cheryl had met with Kellerman months ago. I sat stunned. This network exploited seniors by creating fake emergencies, obtaining guardianship, and then systematically draining assets. I realized that by acting quickly, hiring Anna, working with Catherine, documenting everything, I had stopped my own family from falling into that trap. And now, I could help others avoid it too. Documents showed residents being charged $15,000 a month for basic care while their families sold off homes and investments. Detective Santos leaned forward. We've identified at least 40 families across 6 states. The estimated theft is over $12 million. $12 million stolen from seniors who trusted their own children. My stomach churned. Mrs. Hartwell, we believe your daughter and son-in-law paid David Kellerman $20,000 for his services, she continued. That emergency loan for Emma's medical bills. Some of that money went to Cheryl's cosmetic procedures. And some went to hire Kellerman to help them take control of your life. I felt a wave of nausea. What do you need from me? Santos's eyes were steady. We need you to consider wearing a wire. The words hit me like a punch. You want me to spy on my own daughter and James? They've been trying to reconcile. I asked, thinking of the increasingly desperate voicemails, the flowers, the notes pleading for forgiveness. Yes, Santos said. But if you agree to meet with them under supervision, they might reveal details they wouldn't otherwise admit. I stared at the photographs spread across my coffee table, Emily and James sitting with Kellerman, laughing, plotting to declare me incompetent, to warehouse me, to drain everything I'd saved in 40 years. And other families? I asked. They were identifying targets, elderly neighbors, friends from church, members of book clubs, Santos said. Trusting, gentle women who've known their children for decades. People who would never suspect harm from family. When do you need an answer? I thought about the woman I had been a year ago, accommodating, fearful, willing to sacrifice everything to maintain family harmony. And then I thought of the woman I had become, the one who hired investigators, built legal fortresses, and turned personal betrayal into public advocacy. Detective Santos, I said finally, if this can prevent other families from going through what I experienced, I'll do it. She nodded. Be prepared. What you hear tomorrow may be difficult. People reveal more than they intend when they think they're talking to someone they can manipulate. I thought of Emily's Instagram post celebrating my heart attack, of the hidden assisted living brochures in James's car, of the criminal consultant they had hired. I think I've already heard the worst, I said. The device was smaller than I expected, taped discreetly under my blouse. Across the street, Santos and her team waited in an unmarked van. I walked into the coffee shop, spotted Emily and James at a corner table, and smiled like nothing had changed. Mom, Emily said, standing, awkward and unsure whether to hug or shake hands. Thanks for meeting me. You said it was urgent, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Mom, I need to explain what happened with the guardianship stuff. Why we did it. I leaned forward slightly. I'm listening. We never meant to hurt you, James said. We thought it was for your own good. The lies spilled out easily. Emily pulled out her phone, showing a sprawling house I didn't recognize. This is in Scottsdale. We found it 3 months ago, perfect schools, pool, enough space. Including for you. Lovely, I said, but I'm happy in my own home. Their plan, move me to Arizona, place me in an assisted living facility with golf, art classes, and a library, while selling my house here. James's voice brightened as if describing a vacation. We just wanted you safe, Mom. The facility ensures you're taken care of. I almost laughed. Celebrating my heart attack was part of being safe. The financial confusion you cite. Those were loans I gave willingly, without proper contracts, not signs of incompetence. Emily's expression darkened. We consulted with David Kellerman. He helps families identify cognitive decline and document concerns. James pulled out a small notebook. My own handwriting filled the pages. We kept track of incidents, he said. Memory lapses, emotional outbursts, minor mistakes with bills. I froze. They had twisted ordinary moments into evidence of decline, paying a bill twice, forgetting a neighbor's dog, getting frustrated when questioned. Michael, Emily, these are normal things. Everyone forgets. Everyone reacts emotionally at times. None of this is incompetence. It's the pattern, James said. Kellerman showed us how gradual signs can indicate declining capacity. It guided our plan for guardianship. I listened as they described the Scottsdale property, the timeline for selling my home, and the assumed 4-year stay in memory care, calculating precisely how they expected me to live and spend my assets. My foundation. Emily's voice hardened. That's poor financial judgment, Mom. Giving away money out of spite is evidence of diminished capacity. The audacity was breathtaking. They had used my advocacy, my legal and charitable work, as proof of my incompetence. I took a deep breath. Michael, Emily, what if I refuse to move? What if I want to stay in my own home? Her face fell. That's the point of guardianship. When someone can't make responsible decisions, family steps in. With documented evidence, you won't win disputes. There it was, the threat behind their concern. Submit or be legally stripped of control. I excused myself to the restroom and caught my reflection. The woman staring back wasn't fragile. She had built legal fortresses, uncovered criminal conspiracies, and was about to help law enforcement protect other families. When I returned, Detective Santos was sitting where I had been. Michael and Emily turned pale. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, Santos said calmly, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse. Michael's face registered complete disbelief. Mom, we were trying to protect you. Why would you do this to your family? I looked at the two people who had tried to steal my independence under the guise of care. I am protecting my family. And other families from people like you. The device under my blouse had captured every word, every confession, every detail of a plan that could have destroyed my life. 6 months later, I sat in a packed courtroom, watching the sentencing of the people who had once called themselves my family. Michael had pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse. As part of a deal to avoid federal prison, he would serve 5 years of probation and make restitution payments to the state's Victim Assistance Fund. Cheryl filed for divorce 3 weeks later, taking Emma and Jake to her parents' home in Oregon, cutting off almost all contact with me. I understood her need to shield the children from media scrutiny, but the silence still hurt. David Kellerman received 8 years in federal prison. The court described his operation as one of the most systematic and callous schemes targeting seniors that the judge had ever encountered. Over $15 million had been stolen across 7 states. But what mattered most to me was what had grown from the ruins of my family's betrayal. The Dorothy Hartwell Foundation now operated in 12 states, offering legal guidance and education to seniors at risk of financial exploitation. We had helped over 300 families recognize warning signs and take action, lobbied for stronger guardianship laws, and established rapid response support networks for families in crisis. My book, The Drama Queen's Guide to Family Financial Abuse, had become a surprising bestseller. The title was my own small act of defiance, reclaiming the label Michael had once used to dismiss me and transforming it into a symbol of resilience. Thousands of letters poured in from readers, but one remained closest to my heart. Dear Grandma Margaret. Mommy says we moved because Daddy made bad choices. I miss you, but I saw your picture in a magazine at the dentist. It said you help people who are scared. I hope you help lots of people. Love, Emma. P.S. Jake learned to ride a bike. I kept that letter on my desk beside a photo of Emma and Jake from happier times. Standing outside the courthouse after Michael's sentencing, surrounded by reporters and advocates, I was asked, Mrs. Hartwell, how does it feel to see your son sentenced for trying to defraud you? I paused. It feels like justice, I said. Not because I wanted to punish my son, but because his actions are finally recognized for what they were, criminal exploitation of someone he was supposed to protect. Do you regret exposing the conspiracy? The reporter pressed. I considered it. Did I regret losing access to my grandchildren? Did I regret turning family pain into public advocacy? I shook my head. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my son saw me as a resource to exploit rather than a person to respect. But I do not regret protecting myself or preventing other families from experiencing the same nightmare. What's next for you? I smiled. Speaking tours, legislation inspired by our advocacy, the Foundation's continued expansion, more drama, but the good kind, where standing up for yourself helps others find their voice. That evening, I sat in my living room, reading emails from seniors across the country. A woman in Texas whose grandson was pressuring her to add him to her bank account. A man in Florida whose daughter was urging him to sell his home and move in with family. People who had read my book recognized their own situations and were taking action. Each message reminded me that my family's betrayal had become something far bigger than personal revenge. The phone rang. I answered. Is this Margaret Hartwell? Yes, this is Margaret. Ma'am, I'm Patricia Williams. I think my grandson is trying to declare me incompetent. I found papers in his room that look just like what you described in your book. I don't know what to do. I grabbed my notebook, filled with contacts for attorneys, investigators, and advocates in every state. Patricia, you've already done the hardest part. You recognized the signs and decided to act. Let's figure out the next steps together. As I guided her through protective measures, I glimpsed my reflection in the window. The woman staring back was no longer the trusting, accommodating person of a year and a half ago. She was a survivor of attempted financial theft, a woman who had transformed that survival into a mission. Michael had been right about one thing: I was a drama queen. But now, being dramatic meant fighting back when attacked, hiring investigators, building legal fortresses, turning betrayal into public education, and making sure other seniors would not have to face these horrors alone. Some stories end with reconciliation. Mine ended with something more powerful: the knowledge that even the cruelest betrayal can be transformed into protection for others. I was exactly where I belonged, in my own home, in control, using my voice so others could reclaim theirs. The drama queen had found her stage, and her performance was far from over.